Thank you, gentlemen. 8.02, information from Dr. Kevin Mullen on the Susquehanna High School grading scale. The floor is yours, Dr. Mullen.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
So I'm just going to preemptively say that what you're being presented is several years worth of work. This proposal started with our faculty back in the 2017-2018 school year when they were taking a look at our curriculum and specifically how we weight courses. And then the grading scale proposal actually was had come from the Principals Advisory Board. We have a dedicated group that comes second Tuesday of every month to our high school Principals Advisory Board, and it was something that they advocated for, that we took a look at. We went back to our staff and our faculty, and they took a look at it as well. And I'm going to propose what is going to be included in the course curriculum guide in February. So in February, you're going to receive two course curriculum guides, one that is a status quo and one that would include these particular changes. So this currently is our current grading scale. We run from, obviously from 100 down to anything below a 65 is failing. We have quality points that go with the grading system that you can see. We currently, if you receive a 99 or 100 in a class grade at the end of the year, you get 4.25 points, and yet we claim that we are a 4-point system, so I totally agree. It is very wonky the way we currently have it, and then it continues to go down from a 4 all the way down to a 0.75. That is the current system. Honestly, enough people have retired over the decades. Even looking through files in our counseling office, I can't be 100% sure how this system came to be or exactly when it came to be. It is a system that I inherited as principal and has been here for quite some time. The other piece is our course weighting system. You can see if you take an AP course, it's weighted at a 1.3. Honors courses are rated at a 1.2. Core courses, your English 10, your English 9, English 12 are weighted at a 1.1, and basically every elective course outside of the EMT course is rated at a 1. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the pros and cons to the current system. And just so you are aware, again, I agree with Mr. Henkel about the weighted system. It does have its positives as far as uses. They're not necessarily completely used by other groups, but our weighted system, but the way we weight courses, it is exclusively how we develop class rank. And you can see how, and this is right out of our course curriculum guide from last year, you can see how we come through and give quality points and come up with our weighted GPA. So, it's based on the grade you get versus the weight of the course versus the total number of credits. That gives you your product. You divide everything together, and that comes to your weighted GPA. It is not used for honor roll, and most colleges that we have contacted, and our counselors have contacted Penn State York, Penn State Maine. They've contacted state schools like Westchester and Shippensburg. They've reached out to Gettysburg. None of those schools will give us what their magic spin is on how they take all of the grades and put them together in order to match. I mean, you think of a Penn State that might get 50 or 60,000 applications in a year for their courses. They won't give us their magic, process. Similar to PD doesn't give us the PVAS numbers, but they do work. I will tell you that when you look at projections for things. But they all do agree, every one of them, that they do not use weighted when they mix that. They use the unweighted grade system. So we have researched that, yet nobody will let us behind the curtain to see exactly what it is that they've come up with. So the pros to our current grading system and our weighting scale, and again, there are pros. The current system does allow us to differentiate our more rigorous courses. So students who are taking them, they do get rewarded for them, like an AP course being rated at a 1.3. Our system does attempt to reward students with credits relative to the degree of work and the ability that isn't required in that particular class. If you're taking an AP course, if you're taking an academic or an honors level course, we'll get to the con to that one in a little bit. The current process for calculating class rank doesn't penalize a student for taking most advanced classes because it adds that bonus point there, so there's that cushion there, which is good because it does allow us to prompt students to challenge themselves. Similar to the data that Dr. Reppert shared with you on the projections for growth, we do use those projection growths for students to take a look at when our counselors meet with them or when we as administrators meet and go, do you realize that you have X percentage opportunity to take an AP course? Which means that, you are very talented, you are very smart, kind of go into that self-efficacy piece to give them the idea, the self-belief that they can do things. And we do challenge kids. So there is a positive for that. It definitely, is there. And it does allow our high-achieving students to separate themselves from the rest of the students in their class. So there is a piece to that. And the weighting is important. While it's not used and spun by the schools that we've reached out to put everything together, it is used for scholarships. Some scholarships do go to class rank. Are you in the top 10%? Are you in the top 25%? So that is a particular piece that plays into. Some schools will take a look at in an effort to kind of maybe match apples to apples. They will, especially your very selective Ivy schools, there is a difference between the number 2 person in the class and the number 8 person in the class for those selective courses. Even we've seen that with students who applied to the military academies here in the last 8 years. The class rank does matter for that. So again, there are some pros to the system. Some cons to the system. It is aligned. The proposed grading scale that we have is going to be a little bit more aligned to the NCEA grade point scale. It tweaks it a little bit. The one that we have now is not completely off, but the one that I'm going to propose to you that our teachers have looked at, parents have looked at, does maintain its looking at, what is an A at Susquehanna High School versus an A at Westchester or Johns Hopkins. Students have reported to us that they are frustrated when they get a 91, which in college, if they get a 91, in most colleges is a 4, and they're getting a B+ here, which goes on the report card. Just FYI, when a transcript goes out, it's strictly the percentage. It's the class, the percentage, what their scores in SATs and things were, any credentials that they got. We do not put A or B or anything like that, strictly numbers. Again, going back to they're only spinning, the unweighted. So students have been frustrated. It does cause them, those that work really hard and get a 91, they are disappointed on a report card. It does have an impact on them. And they've voiced that to us. So we want to address that. Parents have voiced that that's a frustration as well. The current weighted system is more focused towards academic courses. Several years ago, we came out and said not every kid needs to go to college. There are definitely lots of jobs in the trades. There are good paying jobs in the trades that kids, certainly the jobs are there. And we want students, college isn't for everybody. Not everybody has to go there. Not everybody can afford it right away. We understand that education continues on a myriad of levels and not just college. But our current system is geared for APs get a 1.3, honors get a 1.2. Example, we had a student about 2 years ago made a beautiful roll-top desk in woodshop class. I mean, it was gorgeous. It's going to be a keepsake in the family for years to come. That student got a weighted score of 1. Whereas a student, because woods is an elective, all of them are rated 1 on the weight scale. Whereas a student, and nothing to take away from our honors classes, or our pre-AP or AP classes, they go take a test, they sit down, they take all the information in, they're good at memorizing, and all they do is put it back onto the test, and they get a weight of 1.3. Well, there was a lot of critical thinking skills, there was a lot of different skills and knowledge of machinery for that student to come up with a roll-top desk. Certainly, that deserves some, you can't sit there and say not everybody has to go to college, but then we don't at the same time reward those students that are going there. So that's an issue. It's an issue that our staff recognized, that we need to take a look at the individual courses, including some of the dual enrollment courses that students are taking, and weight them accordingly based on what the kids are producing and the amount of work that goes into that. we have students, as a result of the current weighting system, that do not take electives. We have students that are going to Penn State, Maine, or other schools that are going to be financiers. They've never stepped foot into one of Mrs. McCullough's finance classes because they're rated at a 1. They opt instead to take a 1.2 or 1.3 class because it's going to help them with their GPA and their weight class rank. And that's a problem. Our job as a high school is to prepare kids for post-secondary, whatever it is, whether it's college or the workforce. And we're not, we're doing a disservice if students are truly just zeroing in on just GPA and class rank and not going and taking the opportunity to explore. It could cost them a year of college if it's something they don't like. It could cost mom and dad or themselves a lot of money and debt. So that's an issue with our current system. There's a lack of alignment with some of our other systems with the grading scale. As far as like what is an A, what is a B. If a student transfers in, we accept it for what it was awarded by the school that awarded it. However, it's a tough transition sometimes when a kid gets a 91 and it was an A at their school, but now that we have to explain why it's just a B here. Same thing, and the same thing goes if a student transfers from here and goes to another school where they are not re-awarding an A for a 91 or a 92. They're giving them a B because that's what we as an institution awarded them. So there's a lack of alignment there that would definitely benefit some of our students. It, again, places a premium on GPA and class rank, which can be very stressful, and the kids have mentioned that it creates a lot of stress for them. Understanding, I'm all for competition, but there needs to be a healthy level of competition. And the current system emphasizes post-secondary, as I said, and doesn't necessarily value the idea of going into a trade or an apprenticeship or directly into the workforce, which is a perfectly good opportunity or option for many of our students. So those are the cons to the system. Just taking a look at our grading scale against the county. You can see most of the county is a decade system beginning 90 to 100, and then moving down to the A's and B's, C's, and D's are relatively consistent amongst the different schools within the area. We're really one of 3 that has some differences at the top levels. Even looking at the region, again, there's a little bit of variety, but you can see a number of students or a number of classes, schools that have similar grades under using a decade system. This is our current grading scale versus colleges. These are colleges and universities that our students have gone to in the last several years. You see that 4.25 is definitely kind of out there, with the exception of Gettysburg. It is fairly well in alignment with some of our schools or other schools, but there are some things that are a little different. This is what we are proposing. We are proposing to keep the A minus, the A, the B, the A plus, similarly with C's and B's. We're proposing to go to a decade system. That is something that we heard loud and clear from our students, again, from the principal's advisory. We are going to recommend that we eliminate the 4.25 and go to a straight 4, which would fall in line with the majority of the local colleges and universities. And we are looking to, for equity, move a failure grade to a 59, which is similar to several schools in the area. We are also looking at changing the proposed weight scale from what it is right now, which is a 1 to a 1.3, to a 1. Honors courses and advanced elective courses, a 1.05, and then AP courses at a 1.1. We did have a teacher group go through. We had teachers then go back through, and we've awarded the 1.05. So if you're taking English 9, it's a 1. But as you move up, similar to college where you would take like a level 100, a 200, and a 300 course, when you get to like grade 11 English, it would be a 1.05 if it's just at the academic level, because as you move up, the expectation is that the workload is going to increase. And then we've taken a look at like our Woods 3 and Woods 4 would move to a 1.05, recognizing the skill and work that they've done, similarly with metals, as well as our seminar courses for art and graphics design would move to a 1.05. Those students that are in those courses right now are getting a 1. They're, for the most part, and you see their gorgeous work that they do at our show, they're basically creating portfolios that they're using to get into colleges and putting a ton of time and effort and work into it. So we believe as a faculty that we should recognize that skill level and that work level. So those are our proposals. And the options moving forward, as I said, you have options coming up in February. Option 1 would be to adopt the proposed changes as they were presented. Option 2 would be to adopt just a change in the weighting system and not touch the grading scale if you're not comfortable with that, as was voiced. And then option 3 would be to maintain status quo and tell us as a high school, we want you to go back and spend the year going back and getting more information and coming back to you with another proposal potentially later in the fall next year. Questions?
Dr. Bowen, this would go in the curriculum guide,
This would go into the curriculum guide for,
be coming up for approval next month.
yes, sir, in February. And then that would, we need it in February so we can begin our scheduling
So
process.
technically, it could change, it, or you could make the approval in February, not.
Yes, we're asking for you to